to Compost and Cocktails. Thank you so much for bearing with me and watching and listening so far. I've been seeing a lot of content online at the moment about putting your garden to sleep for the winter and the autumn, and lots of bare patches and mulching and all that kind of stuff, which is great. But I personally need to stay in the garden for as long as possible. It's really important to me that I get out and have fresh air and get my hands dirty and just enjoy and reap the benefits of the autumn. So this episode is dedicated to not putting my garden to sleep, to keeping my garden awake as long as possible. I have a whole host of things to show you today, from planting garlic. I've got some recipes. I'm still sowing. I'm still planting. So stick with me. Thank you so much for watching, and let's keep our gardens awake. Now is the perfect time to get down to the garden centre and grab yourself some bargains. So all of the perennial plants that die back over the winter are now looking pretty miserable in the garden centre. So it is the perfect time to pick up the little bargains. So this hosta here, as you can see, has got some really yellow and orangey leaves, just because it's dying back, not because it's dying. So I picked this up for £5. It's a beautiful variety that should grow about 60 centimetres wide, and in this really shady border is going to be perfect. The one thing I have to be really careful of over the hot summer is making sure they get a lot of water and enough moisture, but I'll keep an eye on this over the next couple of months to make sure that it beds in well, and then of course again in the spring and the summer as it starts to come back up. The second plant I found in the bargain basement was this Brennera. This beautiful perennial is called Brennera Silver Heart and has heart-shaped silvery foliage and a grey-green sort of veining, and then it has these beautiful flowers that come out in the spring all the way through the summer as well, and it's quite quick growing. But the number one reason that I buy these is because the rabbits don't eat them, and I have a lot of wild rabbits that come into the garden. You can see there's a tree, a small bush right next to where I'm planting here on the right, and all of the branches and the bottom of the stems have been nibbled on by the local rabbits. So I'm on a mission to try and find plants that will go in the garden and not be eaten. And of course, the benefits of buying perennials is that even though they die back over the winter, in many cases, they will of course come back year after year, and if you look after them, they will continue to grow and increase in size. In the kitchen garden, I still have a huge amount of green tomatoes on the vine. They don't seem to be ripening now. I've had a few, but not many. And so I'm going to pick these and make some green tomato chutney with them. I make a chutney every year around this time of year so that it's ready for Christmas. And although it's been really quite warm and mild in October and November, I don't think these are going to ripen anymore because the daylight is just getting reduced every single day. Green tomatoes are naturally quite firm because they haven't ripened, and they are quite sour if you were to try and eat them raw, and quite unpleasant on the palate. But cooked, green tomatoes are delicious. They can go into jams and chutneys, they can go into soups, they can be put fried on toast. I know that's a real popular dish in America, frying green tomatoes. And they really can be quite a versatile ingredient, so they're definitely not going to go to waste. Tomatoes are one of the things that I grow most in the summer and I most enjoy. I think it's because there's such a wide variety that you can grow that you just can't pick up in the shops. And although there are more market stalls and farmers markets selling tomatoes, you just cannot beat the beautiful taste of picking a ripe tomato on a warm day. I'm a huge fan of heritage varieties, but I must admit these indigo rose black sort of cherry tomatoes didn't really ripen for me this year, as you can see. They should have had a blush on the bottom and gone sort of red towards the bottom, but actually they've stayed quite green. So I'm not sure I'll try this variety again next year, or maybe I'll just try and get them in a bit earlier. I supported mine this year using strings tied from the roof structure, which was great. It enabled a lot of the vines to sort of climb and wrap themselves around it and held them up really, really well. So I will definitely be doing that again next year. And my absolute favourite this year out of the varieties that I did grow is the bumblebee, which was just such a pretty sort of small cherry tomato, had great taste, very sweet and moorish, but just was so lovely looking in terms of the stripes, both when it was green and when it had ripened. So that'll definitely be on my list again for next year. I have a bit of an obsession with finding baskets. So they're so great, obviously, for the garden, and I just think they're so pretty. And the fact that they're handmade and natural and sustainable, it just ticks every single box for me. I have about 5 or 6 now, but every single one that I've got has been thrifted. So I've either got it from a charity shop or I've got it from Facebook Marketplace. And I just think it's great to put some more love into a pre-loved item. There is plenty of salad and greens and purples growing in my kitchen garden still. I have kale and chard, and there are some pak choy and some different varieties of lettuce and spring onions, and all of these things are continuing to grow even into November. Now, these will also carry on growing throughout the winter. They will slow down as it gets colder, but they'll be quite happy outside. But I've picked these to go into a stir fry. All of this is just going to get finely chopped up and then stir fried with some lovely sesame oil and some sweet chilli sauce and a little bit of oyster sauce. I have also put in some sliced water chestnuts and some noodles, and it's done in 5 minutes. It's such a quick and easy dinner. This beautiful rose was given to me as a birthday present this year from David Austin. It's called Summer Song, and it has flowered all summer long, and it has doubled in size. I took a look at the website and I was quite surprised to see that roses make a good hedging plant. And as I've got a few gaps in the hedge, what better way than to intertwine some beautiful scented roses through my native hedge. So I've bought 3 bare root roses, and they are called Lady of Shalott, which produce, I hope, a large flower with really highly scented perfume. It's a great time to buy bare root plants for fruit trees and for roses. They just need soaking for a couple of hours before planting and then putting into their final position. These roses have been field grown and dug up and then sent through the post, and they come with a 5-year guarantee. With the summers being so hot recently, the ground is far too hard for me to plant anything after sort of May or June time. So autumn's a great time to fill your borders and to plant those bare root plants. I'm preparing by digging a hole and making sure that the roots will fit within the hole that I've dug, and then filling that with water so that there's plenty of moisture for the roots to grow out to. Even though we have had a bit of rain, my borders are still quite dry, so really important to have that water both as part of the planting and then afterwards whilst it establishes for the first couple of years. This bed already has a mulch of wood chip, and then I've also put a load of the rotting pears on the top. So I'm hoping both will be a good source of both mulch and protection over the winter, but some food for the hungry rose as well. And then I just want to push it down and make sure that there are no air pockets around the roots and that there's a good amount of contact with the roots with the soil. So firming it with my hand and then heeling that in as well. So I'm just finishing this one off with a good drink, and the water will trickle through and remove some of the air pockets as well. And then I'll make sure that this is watered at least once a week for the first year, but really keep an eye on it in terms of water levels for the first couple of years, just whilst it establishes. And then with all 3 being the same variety, what I hope will happen is that they will all intergrow with the hawthorn and the blackthorn, and that I'll have a really beautiful show of orange flowers across the entire hedge in the years to come. Back in the kitchen garden, I'm preparing some beds to plant garlic. A few weeks ago, I'd already laid down some black tarp that I had and some wool just to create a bit of a weed suppressant so that I don't have to dig too much and pull out too many large weeds before planting the garlic. It means there's a little bit less work in terms of digging over, but also it's so much more beneficial for your soil if you don't disturb it too much. I'm taking out any large weeds that I can see on the top. Then I'm going to give it a good rake over. There's already a layer of alpaca poo sat on the top of this bed as well, so just breaking some of that down, smoothing the surface over to prepare the bed, but really not disturbing the soil too much, apart from the odd weed to pull out. I like to grow a couple of different varieties of garlic. So this year I've got an elephant variety, which is the very large type. It's a little bit milder than the smaller varieties, but it's really lovely eaten raw as well as cooked in food. And the plants that are created are really much bigger, double the size of the smaller varieties. So I tend to plant these about 6 inches or so apart to give them enough space to grow. I've bought some garlic seed for the elephant garlic, but I also grew some last year, so I'm also planting some of the cloves that I've saved from this year's growth as well. The depth of your garlic should be about double the size of the bulb itself, so about 3 or 4 inches deep. I use my dibber, and then you want to put the pointed side up. You can normally see a little bit of the root at the bottom, but pointed sides up, root at the bottom, and then into the prepared hole. All varieties of garlic really do benefit from having a frost, which is why garlic is traditionally planted in the autumn and in the winter, so that it has a good frost that can split the cloves into multiple bulbs. As with any bulb, it doesn't like being soaking wet and soggy because it can rot, but it is also really important that you water your garlic if we get a dry spell. So particularly when it starts to get into the spring, after the winter, and you've got a real heavy amount of growth, that's when the garlic really does need watering and a little helping hand if it's been dry. For the smaller standard varieties, I'm planting these much closer together because the bulbs are of course much smaller and the plants will sort of support each other sat together in this grid system. We're due some rain, so I won't worry about watering today, and then I'll start to see some growth on these probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. There's plenty still growing in the other end of the kitchen garden, so these broad beans are doing well. I've got lots of salads and oriental greens and leaves growing, and plenty of autumn raspberries as well. I'm going to harvest the last of my autumn and winter squashes and put these indoors for storage. This sweet little variety that I lost the tag for has been delicious this year. It's been great roasted, but it also stores really well. I've got a couple indoors and I think it would make a delicious little soup container. I also have butternut squash. I've been so proud of this year, the first one that I've grown, and I actually grew this from a supermarket seed. I'm going to take them indoors and put them in a cool, dark place, and these will store really, really well. We still haven't had a frost in Oxfordshire and a lot of my plants are thriving. I'm deadheading my marigolds. Of course, you can save these seeds and regrow them. You never need to buy marigold seeds again. And I'm also taking out all of the leaves and debris in the salad bed just because it's where the slugs like to hide, under the leaves. And so it just gives me a little bit more shelf life or plant life for my salad bar. You can see that I have beetroot in here, lettuce, spring onions, as well as, of course, the marigolds, which I just find are a really pretty addition, as well as being edible. Underneath the fleece, I have some greyhound spring cabbages, and I've noticed that they have quite a few insect holes on them. So clearly the fleece isn't really protecting them from that perspective. It must be something that's coming under the fleece or up from the soil. So my thought is that I'll uncover these and hopefully invite some natural predators around the cabbages, and that they'll continue to grow on, and sort of the insects will go, and hopefully these will start to really bulb up. I'm removing any of the dead outer leaves, again, just to sort of deter some of the pests. And although they can be eaten now, I'm going to leave these for a couple of months and just see if they bounce back a little bit more. And I think the great thing about gardening is just trying it, seeing what happens and learning from your mistakes. So let's see what happens in the next few months. So as well as growing plants to eat, I do love growing flowers for cut flowers and for scent. I particularly love this tree that we planted about 3 years ago, and it must have only been a couple of foot tall when I bought it. It is, of course, a eucalyptus, which you will know if you've ever crushed the leaves of a eucalyptus. It's very, very highly scented and is used for a lot of essential oils. Eucalyptus is beautiful as an additional foliage with flowers, and you can also put this on the stove with some really hot water to release the scent into your house as a natural air freshener. I've picked this with some dahlias and some calendula and a couple of nearly going over zinnias, and I think it looks beautiful. And I refresh these flowers about every week, and they've produced for me the entire summer in my home. As you can see, there are so many jobs still to do, and my garden is keeping me incredibly busy. Long may it continue, and long may it stay awake.